Okay, now today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the same old things, ability X ratings, the numbers themselves, what they tell us, and how they enable us to learn what's actually going on with horse racing on the track. But I thought I would, or should, get in the backdrop to everything that you always want to keep in mind and be aware that it's always there, and it's always one of the driving forces of everything that happens in horse racing, and that's the trainer's job. A lot of people assume what the trainer's job is, and a lot of people think they know that basically the trainer's job is to take care of the horse and tend to the workout schedule, work schedule, the feeding, the medication, the overall health of the horse, and take care of it in general and all of that, and provide the training and get it into shape and have it in proper condition for racing, which, yes, all of that is the trainer's job. But a lot of people think the trainer is trying to win every race, every time the horse gets on the track, that there is an attempt made to win this race. And that's not always so. A lot of races that we see, horses are in them just for training purposes. A lot of the races are just to see if the horse is good at that level, or can handle that distance, or could be taught to handle that distance. Sometimes there's a new distance, there's a new surface, there's always something different, and the trainer may be trying to see what the horse needs to be taught or learn to win at this distance, this class level, whatever. But essentially, at the start of it, what the trainer's job is mostly is to know what the horse's ability is, expand on it where he needs to, but to know what that horse's basic ability is and hide it from everybody else. Because as a trainer of a racehorse, you really don't know, you don't want everybody to know what the ability of your horse is, because you want to be the main part of that horse's racing career. That's where your value's at. So you want to put forth the concept and maintain that concept that the horse wins best if you are training it. So you want to find what the horse's ability is, and you want to hide it from everybody because you want to be the key to it. And if you just look at basic percentages, an excellent trainer, the excellent trainers, the excellent jockeys that win and are winners, their average percentages is about 25, 30%, maybe even 35% these days. That's a tremendous trainer or jockey that wins a third of the time. But it's still only a third of the time. It means that they don't win every time, and they're not trying to win every time. Because the reality is, if the trainer is trying to win every race, every time the horse steps on the track, one way or the other, he's going to lose his horse. Either the horse is going to break down, or if it's such a tremendous winner and does win race after race, somebody's going to buy that horse, and that trainer has a great risk of losing that horse. So you always want to have some question as to what the horse can do ability-wise. You want to know what it is, so you can put the horse in a place where it can win when it is ready to win and in condition to win, and when you intend to win. But you want to put the horse maybe in places where it doesn't really belong, when you don't really want it to win, don't care if it wins, or you just want to do some training or whatever. And that seems to be about 70% of the time. 30% of the time, trainer's really trying to win, and that's the intention. But the other 70%, we're just training for whatever purposes those are. And maybe if the horse wins, well, great. You know, but it's not like we planned it that way. But you do have those times when the trainer intends to win and puts the horse out on the track with that full intention, and fully prepared, fully ready, but you ideally want to be the only person that knows that if you're the trainer. You don't really want the bettors to know because they'll all run up and bet and knock the odds down. After you do all that work, you might want to bet a couple hundred on the horse yourself. So you'd like to have good odds. So basically, the trainers would rather the horse wins at higher odds than lower odds. You know, for everyday racing, and this applies to everyday racing, such as we're looking at Turfway Park. So that's what's going on with trainers most of the time. Now in championship racing, $1 million purses, $500,000 purses, certainly. Every one of those races we put our horse in, we're trying to win it. And we might only put our horse in that kind of race once every 45 days or 2 months or whatever. But I'm talking about everyday racing like what we're looking at Turfway Park. And I'm going to recap Sunday and go into more detail on these things, but what we're going to take a look at in that recap is how the numbers generally are higher at Turfway Park for the average horses we're looking at. We're no longer at Saratoga looking at top-level horses, and we're looking at everyday stuff and everyday kind of races. And we're looking at a polytrack track, and we've got Keeneland coming up. So we want to know what the numbers are telling us, and what they're telling us about polytrack, what they're telling us about horse racing, what they're telling us about everyday racing, everyday classes. And in this recap, I'll go into more detail on that. We had, although basically the 6 races we had Sunday weren't fantastic, it wasn't a fantastic day. We had one odds on T-horse that won, one odds on Simple Pick that won, Whoop-de-Doo 260. We had races with even money favorites, but in those 6 races we had some fine examples of how the numbers tell us what's going on and perhaps what they expect, and help us to predict the outcome frequently, or to at least recognize that we have contenders in the race with excellent chances to win that aren't the top 3 or 4 morning line choice. We've got outsiders at 10 to 1, 12 to 1 morning line that are equal in ability to some of the odds-on favorites and the 2 to 1 second choices. So that's a great example there, and we can always learn from that. So we're going to take a look at that recap in detail. We're going to get into start into pairs, because we had several pairs Sunday, and we had, in the first race, we had a totally opposite kind of run for one horse that was the winner of that race, opposite of the rest of the horses in the race, in the running type. We had a big run in the end of the race kind of horse, one of those. We had another one that was, you know, kind of close to par, but more toward the back of the race. But this was, you know, the single only really big run horse in the race against a whole other group that was the kind of run for the wire kind of horse. It doesn't have a lot of oomph in the end of the race. And the thing about that race was that we have one that's opposite of everybody else. So sometimes that is a good betting situation. And it's just, we have one of this ability, we have 5 of that type of ability. So let's bet the one just on that basis, and boom, we got a nice winner. There were several other factors involved in that particular race, and we'll look at them in the recap. But again, we're seeing, even after just 4 days of Turfway, and after just a couple days of Turfway, in general, how Turfway differs from other tracks and how the lower classes of horses differ, and we're picking all that up very quickly, and it's being shown to us every day and with every race, so that we can understand it and get on the right track very quickly. So This also is an exercise in getting a track down quickly, and the numbers tell the story. The results tell the story, so you can get in line with it very fast. But we had examples Sunday also of the misunderstanding that most handicappers, past performance form handicappers, have of speed or the horse's run. So once again, you know, they're focused really in how fast the horse runs through here and what time the horse runs at the finish line. And that's the whole focus of the thing. Better, best horse kind of thing. One horse to another. This has the best time. This has the best speed rating. You know, this one can beat the rest, and yada yada yada. But we're seeing through Ability X ratings and the results that most of the races, when you get right down to it, are won or lost right here in that run-up area. The start of the race, because the whole idea here in a horse race is not to run as fast as you can, as far as you can necessarily. The idea is to get this 1,200-pound horse with 100 pounds of jockey on its back from a standing start in the starting gate to a full flight run by the time you're in this area here. And you want to do that with a horse being as relaxed as possible and without being ridiculous about it, tendon bowing kind of effort, without being frantic, without losing a lot of energy. You want the horse to comfortably get into full flight from that gate in as short an area as possible, but you want the horse to get into that cruising speed comfortably, and depending on the distance, you might want more and more comfort in that zone. You know, as the distance gets longer, you want to take a little more time on getting into that full flight. You know, you don't want to really strain the horse too much if you got to go for a 1.16 miles, 1.8, or even a mile. And even at 6.5 furlongs, and we'll see this in the recap, you might want to back off your early speed a little bit, and it's not a problem if you might take an extra second to get into full flight run comfortably, just for that extra 16th. And we'll see that 6.5 furlongs is quite different. We already know this, really. We should. 6.5 furlongs is quite different from 6, and 6 is quite different from 5.5. So we've seen where each 16th gives us quite a difference. And most handicappers, distance, it's all the same to them. I don't think they really see a 2-turn distance any different from a 5 furlong sprint. But that's good for us, not so good for them. But what we want to do is we want to understand those differences in distance and how they affect the run of the horse, or how the run of the horse will be adjusted for those different distances by the trainer. We want to get into the trainer's head as much as we can through seeing the ability of the horse and knowing what the ability of the horse is. So we want to see also, in the perspective of ability, we want to be able to see the perspective of the trainer. So that's why it's important, and I've probably said this a few times, it's very important to watch the horse races, because most trainers are very visual in what they see, I mean, in their decisions and where they put the horse. They get all this more from visual than they do from a record or times or what's written down, notes, all the things the handicapper's looking at. The trainer usually might look at those things, but the visual is more important than the trainer. So what the trainer sees in today's race visually, and how the horse is running at any point at the track, how it gets started and how it gets into full flight how it cruises around that turn, whether it has any energy through the stretch and to the wire. That's visual. And a trainer makes decisions based on that run today for the next race. Decisions as to distance, as to class, and any changes he might want to make or thinks would be best in order to win. And in many races, that's what the horse is in the race for. Not necessarily to win today, but we want to see how the horse runs with this class at this distance. And the trainer's going to observe that through the whole race and then make decisions for any adjustments and see what adjustments maybe are best or advisable, or what adjustments might put that horse in the winner's circle for the next race. Now, when we look at the ability from this race today, next time, as it's coming in, we can see if we are able to visualize from that number, which we can do once we learn to just watch horse races. You begin to visualize that run by watching the horse races and watching the horse, how it goes around the whole track and everything. And you start to get a visual picture in your mind along with that number. When you see the numbers and you're comparing numbers, you're like, you can see this horse and that horse at the 3/8 pole, and this one will be ahead, or that they'll both be right there together, or one will be a little bit behind, but this one's going to move like that, and this one's going to move about here. And when they get to the quarter pole, this one is the one that's just going to bounce out of the crowd about, go about 5 lengths ahead and just win laughing at everybody. That's the one there. And you can see that from the numbers and from visually watching races and watching how horses run. And you'll start to put the run together with the number today and each day, and then you'll start to associate those different kinds of runs with the numbers they belong with. And next thing you know, as you practice this and get used to it for a little while, you'll be able to visualize today's race to an amazing point. No, you won't be able to predict the finish order of every race, but many times the horses will come out of the gate and break out of there just exactly the way you saw it. And they'll arrive at the quarter pole here just the way you had in mind. And it'll be just the right crowd right there at that finish line, and you'll have the superfecta with just 4 horses, or maybe 5. And that's when you're starting to really get the best feel for Ability X ratings and understand what they're telling you. When you start to associate it with the different type of run it actually depicts or actually describes. And as you do this over and over, you'll be able to visualize it, and you'll come to the point as a win better where it'll just fall right in on you a couple minutes before post time. This is the winner. So you can confidently go bet because you can see how it all is going to fit together, and it's all going to lay out this way, and you can confidently bet, and you may still be wrong, but you will be right the higher percentage of the time. So, and as you keep doing it, you'll get better at it. But this is what we want to do. This is where we want to get, and the best way to get there is to watch races, check the results, plug all that into your head and understand what those numbers are telling you, and understand what the numbers are telling you about the different track, polytrack, dirt, grass, the runs, why they run like this on grass, why they run like that on polytrack, why do they run this way on dirt, and you'll start to see the differences and understand what the differences are, and understand why those differences. But on polytrack, generally, as we know, you won't see the big moves, more even runners. So that's helpful is better, especially on exotics, superfectas, trifectas, and all that, because then early speed, although it might be generally lower for the various distances in which you'll find on dirt for the successful horses or the winners, it will be very indicative of that finish order. So over and over you'll see the faster early horses will be first, and the little slower than that will be second, and down the line, and that will happen frequently. But you'll be able to see that as you practice watching the races, and I recommend as much as you can when you look at a card with ability X ratings and make your basic decisions. I always say it's best to make a betting decision right before post time when you're able to take in all the information. I don't like to make a decision very early, and I don't recommend it, but when you're able to watch those races, and watch as many of them as you can, and you'll start to get a very good feel for associating the run you see today with the number you saw earlier. And you'll get much better at the finish order, and you'll get much better at finding standout contenders that have excellent chances of winning and that you can bet confidently. And that's what we're after. And that's what you can get, but very important, watch all the races you can, because as a bettor, the bettor's job is to find the ability and bet it so that you can win, make money, come back the next day and do the same thing, and just keep doing that over and over. Because the great thing about seeing the race in the perspective of ability with ability X ratings is you're completely on another plane from the majority, when the majority are handicappers and they're looking at past performance, form, position, first, second, third, speed, time, speed ratings, and all of that is a poor concept and understanding of the horse race. With ability X ratings, you have the superior understanding of what's going on the track today and what will go on the track today. While the form handicappers are just betting records, and that I won't say is primarily who you're betting against, but they're the ones that provide that pool and make the odds for you so that you and the racetrack can be betting against them and winning at better odds. So that's the whole idea. So very important to watch races whenever you can. And we'll take a look at this recap of Turfway Sunday, September 9th in more depth and see what it tells us, so we can start to receive what it's going to tell us for the rest of the Turfway season, a couple more weeks, and then we're going to get into Keeneland, and we're going to see the same things at Keeneland. And hopefully, I would imagine Keeneland will be much better on the payoffs. I'm hoping Turfway gets better here pretty quick. But it is a short meeting just this month. But Keeneland is also a poly track, and same ownership of both tracks. So this is kind of a warm-up for the Keeneland meeting, and hopefully we get done with Turfway. We're ready for 3 weeks of just cleaning up at Keeneland, because we've got better horses all day long there, and full fields, and a lot of confusion for handicappers. So that's what we like, and that's what makes it fun for people that are able to see the race in the perspective of ability. So I'll wrap this up and get that recap going and get that to you. And hopefully the coming week, which starts tomorrow, we'll have a little more of the kind of action we really like. I always like the long shots. I don't know about you, but I like to have a good supply of $50 horses, although they have been a little scarce lately. But I'm sure that'll pick up soon. But we are getting from Turfway what we are looking for, and that's mostly education and seeing what the differences are with polytrack. And I'll go into that with more detail in that recap. So thank you very much.
Okay, this is Thursday, October 11th, 2018 at Keeneland, and just wanted to point out one thing in particular on this card, and that is the 10th race, a $32 winner, 10-cent superfecta, paying just a little short of $600. And just wanted to point out that this race shows the importance of comparing to the favorite, morning line favorite, which is number 2 in this particular race, and a run rating of 118, early speed of 88. And if you look at the chart, you would see that number 1 is a matching rating, 118.84 early speed, and the simple pick number 4 is 114 100 early speed at 20 to 1. But the difference here is that during the on-track warm-up for the race, number 1 was the horse just begging to be bet in that warm-up. And this is why it's important to watch races and watch the post-parade warm-ups, the tote board, the odds, and think while all that is going on, and think about the abilities of the horses in the race. Very important, and you can catch a lot of great winners doing that and make a lot of good betting decisions as opposed to just betting every race like form handicappers often do. So we'll be back with more soon, and thank you very much. Okay, now I also wanted to show a couple of examples from Thursday, October 11th, 2018 at Keeneland of what I'm talking about in this particular video that was made in 2012. The big run horse that you should keep an eye out for, especially in cheap races like this $15,000 maiden claimer at Keeneland, first race. You've got your simple pick that is very close to par, and you've got your key horse that is reasonably above par, and of course the favorite is above par, and several other horses here are well above par, and the highest early speed horse in the race well above par. And then you've got this one all by himself, number 4, one big run horse in the race compared to the other horses, all of the other horses. One is a big run horse, hugely over par, but at 93 early speed, that's big run. It's big run even at 90 early speed. But the result is an $84.80 winner from a horse in a cheaper race that is just opposite of all the other horses. Big run. And apparently, maybe the trainer thought correctly, if he just pops this horse out of the gate and gets a good start, nobody will be able to catch up with him. And if you look at the replay, you'll see number 1 outrunning the entire field except for number 4 and just couldn't catch up with him. So that's the first example, and I've got another one here that shows up in the 5th race. Number 2, 373.89. Run rating 373.89, early speed 10 to 1 morning line. That's big run. Your favorite is at par 314.87, which is actually low early speed. And then your simple pick, high early speed, but it's not that high. It's not even par for 6 furlongs. So if you have some experience with these cheaper horses and the ratings for cheaper horses at cheaper tracks, maiden claimer $23,000, that's a cheap horse, because it'll be running in open claimers about 18-20,000. But there it is. You'll see this number winning lots of 6 furlong races at second tier tracks. But there you go, another big run, low early speed horse. Number 2, 35.80 to win. So the best thing is to always be thinking about what could the trainer be thinking, and what if the trainer has a strategy that his horse will win this race just based on what that trainer knows about his horse. So I'll throw that on to this video, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.